She doesn't test you to break you, gentlemen. She tests you to feel you. Let me explain exactly what I mean. Because the game has changed, right? Back in the day, think about how humans used to get together all throughout human history. Starting in the very, very, very beginning of time during tribal times, small little tribes where you'd have 10 or 15 people. Typically, what would happen is that women and men would get paired within their tribe and it would be facilitated through a leader, or there would be a woman and a man that were from separate tribes that would be essentially either traded or again facilitated. So a lot of what throughout history, human history, attracted people together was going to be familiarity, proximity. It ties a little bit into status, and there was less of a load on the mind to make a choice. Think about it. Even just hundred or a couple hundred years ago in human history, a lot of marriages were arranged, right? A lot of marriages were facilitated through families, and who you were attracted to and who you were chose was ultimately influenced very heavily by the people around you, the people in your social circle. Now, that's still the case, right? Like we're still hardwired for safety, comfort, familiarity, and women especially are super, super high on guard because the reproductive burden and the reproductive cost of selecting the wrong mate is extremely detrimental. It's not the same for men. For guys, we could easily just go hook up with a bunch of women and have a bunch of offspring, and that'd actually be really great for our genetics. And we wouldn't even necessarily need to do anything. If this one survives, it survives. If this one dies, it dies. It's not the same for a woman, right? She's got one shot, one opportunity. And that means that the man that she ultimately ends up with has to be the right pick. So that's why men, optimize for conversion and volume. Women optimize for protection and safety and selection. That's what's going on. Now, what the problem is that in the modern times, right, 2026, the game has changed. Everybody has full autonomy. Anybody gets to choose who they're with. There's no more facilitating. It's no longer arranged. There's no longer these social constructs that force the decision and influence us, right? Like we have unlimited options, and it's entirely up to us as individuals to develop the skill sets to become desirable in the market and then ultimately get who we want from who we want it from. Now, the problem is that that is not an easy task. It sounds amazing in the beginning, right? You get to pick, you get to choose, you get to have all of this autonomy. But the issue is that now it's extremely competitive. And then you've also got the paradox of choice. How do I know I'm making the right decision? How do I know that she's the one for me? There's never, ever, ever, ever been more confusion than right now in 2026. And that's why modern dating is very difficult, right? It's quite a bit of a struggle. And so with women specifically, again, back to the fact that it's harder for them to figure out who to pick because they need to be the choosy ones. They need to be the picky ones. As men, we can make the wrong decision and end up 5 years down the line and still be attractive at 35 years old. 5 years down the line for me, I'm only going to be more capable. I'm only going to be more valuable in the sexual marketplace. My girlfriend 5 years from now cannot say the same thing. And so this is a realization that I've come to. And it's actually changed my entire mindset with the way that I approach my current relationships and that I think everybody should with dating. And it's that women do not test you to break you. They test you to choose you, right? They test you to feel you. Now, with all of the options that are in the world, there's so much paradox of choice for a woman. She just doesn't know who the right guy is. Think about it. The only way for her to figure that out on her own is to test and test and test. And that shows up with, dry text messages in the beginning where she's not really reciprocating much getting back to you. She wants to see if you're actually really, really into her or not, or if you're just looking for a one-night stand. And then even when you start dating her, right, things might start good in the beginning and then get a little bit tougher and tougher and tougher. And you might even start to make the mistake of thinking this woman is combative. This woman is masculine. This woman is argumentative, and that it can be true. So you have to understand how to see character flaw. But what if it's not a character flaw, right? Like what if actually the more that a woman is testing you, the higher quality that she is, the more difficult she's ultimately going to make it for you, front loaded. And that's because ultimately She tests you to make sure you're the right decision. And when you've passed these tests, you ultimately end up winning the prize, which is her loyalty, her devotion, her love, her body, and all of these different things. Now, the thing is that people don't understand is that the tests, as time goes on and the marketplace becomes more globalized, it only gets harder and harder and harder and harder, which means they test longer and longer and longer and longer. It's no longer just needing to double text. It's no longer needing to just go on, more than one date before you smash. Now it's even when you're in that relationship, you might be 5-6 months into a relationship with a woman and you're still getting pushed. You're still getting tested. You're still being checked. And as a man, with all of the dating advice out there, if you listen to it, like very literally, then you might think I'm with the wrong woman. I better drop this girl for a higher interest, more agreeable individual. But here's the problem is if you just keep jumping from agreeable woman to agreeable woman to agreeable woman, you're getting girls that are not vetting heavily on the front end, right? You're probably dealing with, less picky women. And so here's my, message to you guys today is that the best women out there, they're going to initially probably come across as masculine. If you can stay in the flames, if you can burn in the fire, and I'm not talking about forever, right? If 2-3 years down the line, things aren't getting better, but I'm talking about like you might start dating a girl and the shit test is 6 months long, right? And it's because we are in a modern day where women need to test and test and test and test with divorce rates at the highest levels that they've ever been. The reason being is men are either giving up too quickly or not leveling up enough. So if you're leveling up enough and you're not giving up too quickly, these are going to be the men, and you're leveling up very quickly, these are going to be the men that ultimately end up with the most high quality women and have the most high quality relationships. Mark my words, there's a shift that is happening, and the tests are being even more frequent. They're being even more elongated, right? Even 6 months into the relationship, you're still being tested. Even in a monogamous relationship, you are not out of the dating phase until about month 6 or 7 in 2026. Mark my words on that. Be prepared for these tests. Be prepared for combativeness. And what she's doing is testing emotional resilience. She's testing self-control. Okay, she wants to be able to understand psychologically how strong are you really? Because as she knows, this is one shot, right? It's one opportunity in her prime to find the right guy. And if she does not test properly, then it's not going to work out. And she's got an abundance of options. So she absolutely has to be 100% sure. So for all my guys out there, if you're struggling with a woman that you think might be too combative, or you're struggling with a woman that you think might be impossible to deal with, maybe she's got character flaws, ask yourself this: is it a character flaw or is it a character benefit, right? That's the question that you got to be able to figure out. That's the biggest challenge men are facing in modern dating 2026. And get some help, get some backup. Click the link below this video if you want mindsets, frameworks, if you want to understand how to increase your optionality. And then also, if you're not getting chosen enough, increase your marketing. I can help you with all of these different things. I use Instagram ads and exclusive events to get you in front of and attracting the right women. And then I will be able to show you how to actually convert that woman, not just from a girlfriend, but after that 6-month mark, into a devoted lover that gives you everything that you want, while of course you provide for all of her needs in return. See you guys on the next video. Peace.